You're welcome along to the football show. Nathan with you for the next hour. So the African Cup of Nations gets underway on Sunday. This year's tournament takes place in Cameroon with the opening game between the hosts and Burkina Faso. Senegal are the favourites. They have the likes of Sadio Mane, Edouard Mendy, Kalidou Koulibaly, Idrissa Gueye in their squad. The other contenders include the defending champions Algeria, who will feature Riyad Mahrez, and Egypt, who will obviously be looking for Mo Salah to replicate his sensational club form on the biggest stage in African football. To look ahead to the tournament, I am joined by a League of Ireland legend, a league winner with Shells, Bows and Sligo, but more importantly for this chat, a two-time African Cup of Nations winner with his native Cameroon. The great Joey Eto'o is with us. Good to talk to you, Joey.
Hi.
How are you keeping?
Yeah, good, thank you. And you?
I'm very well. So we're just a couple of days away now from the start of the African Cup of Nations. And again, it always feels like the build-up to the tournament in this part of the world, because of its place in the calendar, has been less about the tournament itself and ends up being completely dominated around players being taken away from Premier League clubs and being taken away from the biggest leagues in Europe at a crucial part in the season. As someone who's played in the African Cup of Nations, who knows how important it is to the people of Africa, do you find it frustrating that so much of the talk from football fans is around about the players who are leaving their clubs and how it feels like a bit of a nuisance for those football supporters?
Not at all. Because I feel that everyone has to defend his interest. And by the way, as a player, I think that it would be strange for my manager to say, "Oh, I'm so happy. I'm so happy for him. He can stay as long as he wants, isn't it?"
Yeah.
So I felt that. Listen, that's a subject who always been there for years, and the only way to solve it is for the Confederation African Board to find a solution, and the only solution is to make the tournament during the league off season. So if it's not the case, and if the tournament has to be every January the way it is now, so we shouldn't complain about the clubs felt that it's against their best interest. Because, by the way, if Euro was during the season, do you think that the club will be happy?
No, clearly not. And
so that's what I'm saying. The main thing is for the African country to have their players. I think it shouldn't be too much noise. They shouldn't even complain about what the club are saying, because I think what the club are saying is fair. They have to look after their own interests. Now, African nation, they have to also look after their own interests. The main thing for you is to have your player. It doesn't matter if he came one day before the tournament start or 2 days before tournament start, because the hardest thing also is that all the best players are not playing in Africa. I think that's also something they have to look at, because if you don't want people to complain, then we have to find a solution. And the first thing is, unfortunately, all the best players are not playing in Africa. And we have to understand that those clubs are paying those players. So we need a solution, because for years it was the same issue, for years.
Attempts have been made as well. The last African Cup of Nations did take place during the summer at the end of the European club season, and there were obviously no issues then, and various different reasons, COVID included, meant that this tournament had to take place at this time of the year. In terms of what it means to Cameroon to host the tournament at the moment, it was meant to host it 2 years ago, ended up being moved to Egypt. There's a civil war taking place in Cameroon for the last 4 years. There have been question marks around security. There's obviously huge COVID issues everywhere in the world right now. I don't know if you've been talking to people from home and got a sense of what's expected of this African Cup of Nations, and whether it's a welcome tournament in Cameroon at the moment.
It's always a welcome, because I think even the COVID situation in Europe is completely different than the COVID situation in Cameroon. In Cameroon, it's less. That's the first thing. Secondly, there is a civil war based on, I think, what happened in terms of politics. But football is not about politics. And that's the beautiful things about football in Cameroon is that football always brings people together. And if there is one thing I think Cameroonian people need now is football, because I don't see anything who can bring armies together, at least to have a pause, is when Cameroon play. And I think that tournament is not just something great for Africa. I think it was something needed for Cameroon.
When I think about Cameroon, and I think when most people of my generation think about Cameroon, the first thing that comes to mind is Roger Milla celebrating by the corner flag and dancing at Italia 90. You're around, 13, 14 when Cameroon have that incredible success at Italia 90. What was that like to live through?
Listen, I was a huge fan. Everything was, I would say, paused during the game. Even not during the game, but I would say maybe 4 or 5 hours before the game. You couldn't get anything signed in any office because there were no one there anyway. So everyone was preparing, family was there. It was a little bit, I would say, the one thing I can compare of is Christmas. It was a little bit like Christmas. And listen, the way the team plays, the enthusiasm, it's more about the enthusiasm, because we knew that with the player we had, we can do something special. But when it comes to that event, it's always how much are you enthusiastic, how much it does not affect you, because that's the hardest thing when it comes to higher competition. And I think they handle it so well, so well. And the result was amazing because, by the way, Mr. Roger Milla, he wasn't even meant to be in that World Cup. That's the crazy thing. He wasn't meant to be in that World Cup, and he ended up being in that World Cup. But for years, he was the best striker in Cameroon. So when I was younger, they used to tell me story about him, like they're telling story about Santa. So he just to tell you, and what you saw there is nothing compared to what he used to do in Cameroon.
Right.
Nothing. That's why you remember Eto'o always said he is what he is because of Roger Milla.
So did Italia 90 for the people of Cameroon just confirm what you already knew about Roger Milla, that he had that talent? It was just a matter of time at a very late age, because he was 37, 38 when he went to Italia 90.
No, but that's what the everyone else saw it. But we were seeing that for years in Cameroon, and he was playing in France. But I will say the tournament, the world started to be, I would say, a little bit more open. And that's why you have that such an impact, But in terms of talent, we knew who Roger Milla is. Listen, it's not just him. It's not just about playing football. I think for him, he was a master of football.
Italia 90, as I'm sure you're well aware from all the years you've been living in Ireland, had a pretty seismic impact on this country from what the Republic of Ireland did. When you think back to that first match against Argentina and beating Argentina, when you talk about the walls opening, like the sense of national pride that came with beating that brilliant Argentina side, and that must have been immense.
Not really, because in Argentina we knew that you have late Diego Armando Maradona, and by the way, as much as we were supporting Cameroon, each one was supporting also Maradona. That's the reality. Like, we want Maradona to be on the ball, to do his tricks, but we knew that we have to stop him. And the one thing about Cameroonian players that they love that kind of challenge, especially when no one expects them to do something. And I think the point on that, Matt, is that we have to stop Maradona playing. That was the key. Nothing else will be important. And we knew that in some point we're going to score, but if you allow Maradona to dictate the game, it's over. So that's why it wasn't too much a surprise that we won. But I think it was more surprise the way we played.
Right. The tournament as a whole, and geez, we're going back a very long time now. We're going back over 30 years at this stage. Like, Cameroon are 7 minutes away from getting to a World Cup semi-final, from beating England in that quarter-final. When the team came back home, did they return home like the Irish team that got to the quarter-finals as absolute heroes?
Exactly, that's the word. Heroes. Like, some sponsor, I think some sponsor give them houses, other gives bonuses. They got a reception into the presidential palace. Listen, they were the kings. They were the kings. And I think it changed a lot of things, not just in Cameroon, but also in Africa. Because before that, football were not, I would say, welcomed in African family. It was seen like a job that only loser can do it. So it changed completely the dynamic of football, how they perceive footballers, because we start to understand that the one thing where we're going to always agree, the one thing we always going to cheer up, the one thing we always is going to be in peace with is football, because politics is not possible. So even music sometimes is not possible because we have all those tests about music. But football is everyone. It doesn't matter how much we hate each other, but when those guys are on the pitch, it's only one song we can sing.
You're at a very formative age around then in terms of your footballing career. You're 14 and you already clearly have the talent. Are you thinking, does it change your thinking, that World Cup, as to what's possible as a footballer in Cameroon? And as you went through and played with the Cameroon national side and players of a similar age, did you get a sense that actually there was a lasting legacy from that team in terms of what you thought you should be able to achieve as players?
Yeah, of course. But also the one thing I would say that, my prayer to God always been to play football. To be fair, I never really, I would say, dream of playing in the national team or playing the World Cup and the African Cup. For me, was to play football. And I think it's in 1994 that I felt that, you know what, I think I'm going to play the next World Cup.
Right.
Because I can feel how much I become stronger, how much I understood football. And I just felt, if there is, I would say, some type of manager who understands my game, I will have a big chance to play in the World Cup. And my motivation always been just to play football. Because, listen, before I play my first game in the national team, I've been called up for training camp, I don't know, maybe 20, 25 times. I never played even a friendly game.
Right.
So it's only when the new manager came that I was able to play. So that's what I'm saying. If I was just dreaming about football, about the national team, I think I would be discouraged, because when I would say, one of, is not the best player in the Cameroonian league, but I couldn't have a game in the national team. So in some point, you start to ask the question, why? But for me, I never asked why, because I was enjoying my football with my club, and that's the only thing I wanted to do. So the national team for me was just to say, okay, listen, now I have opportunity, because the next manager, he loves the way I play. And I take advantage of it. I took advantage of it.
That was Claude Leroy, was it, who was in charge at the 98 World Cup?
Yeah.
That was a pretty exciting time for Cameroon football when you look at the young players who were emerging. I think you were only 22 at the time, and Rigobert Song is 21. Pierre Wome is there, who's a young player as well, I think only 19. Joseph Desire Job is 20. And Samuel Eto'o is emerging at just 17. Was Eto'o one of those players who you knew straight away, this guy is going to be one of the greats?
Of course, because, listen, it's not just him. I think in the team, I will say maybe 3 or 4 who were as good as Eto'o. And the thing also about Claude Leroy that that wasn't the first time he has to manage Cameroon. I remember the first time he came, I was very young, and he changed the team. He brought so many young players. So when I heard his name, that he's going to be the next manager for the World Cup, I told my dad that I'm gone. I was so sure, because I know the way he plays, I know the kind of player he likes, and I say, if he saw me play, it's good for me. So, and you can see how much young player he brought into the team. How much young player he brought in the team, because I think it's so much for the Cameroonian national team to renew the team when it's needed. I think that was one of his strengths, is that he knew when the time is needed to renew a team. And that period, 98, listen, we have a fantastic team, fantastic. And for Eto'o, I think people talk about Eto'o from Barcelona. Only few watch Eto'o play for Mallorca. It was, I would say, 20 times better than the one in Barcelona.
In what way?
Because in Barcelona, I think it was a little bit too easy for him. He has Ronaldinho, he has Iniesta, he has Xavi, you know. So he didn't do much. I would say he done it, but he didn't do much to score.
He scored 36 goals in a season.
No, but in Mallorca, he didn't have all those people. Do you think that Barcelona are going to go in a team like Mallorca to get their striker? That they have enough money to get any striker. But if you saw them go to Mallorca to sign Eto'o, you know that guy, he was something else. Like, he has to do everything by himself. And that's the difference. Because you have to understand, when you play with talented player or the player as good as you, it's a little bit more easier for you. You like, the things you have to do when they are not there is different than the thing you have to do when they are there. And I always say Eto'o in Mallorca, it was a different level. But then now when he went to Barcelona, now his only job there will be to score. He doesn't have to take the ball to the halfway line and try to beat 6 or 7 people. Do you understand?
Mm.
So, and then he has people who can do it, and his only job is to score. But in Mallorca, wow. And that was something.
I guess that time at Mallorca as well, and listen, there was a lot of very talented players in that Cameroon squad that we touched on and that went on to have great success in 2000 and 2002, but that leadership I guess he had showed at Mallorca of carrying the team on his shoulders was probably something that stood him very well then when he went back with the national team, where he had to be that leader.
No, and that's the thing, in Cameroon he wasn't the leader.
Right. Because
like in Cameroonian national team is a little bit like in our culture. In our culture is not how good you are. In national team is not how good you are. It's based on elders. So you have elders, people who were there before you, who understand the culture of the national team. So it's not about you being the best player. Because even when people have to talk about, let's say, talk on behalf of the national team, it's not the best player. It's always the 3 or 4 elders who talk on behalf of the players. So to learn behind them, because you have, I would say, leaders. You have the late Marc-Vivien Fouet, you have Patrick Bouma, you have Rigo Besson, and you have, I think, another one, Raymond Kala. So you have those guys who they were there before us. Maybe I would say 6-7 years before us. So eto'o learn from them, because that's also the good thing about the national team, is that they pass the torch to the new generation, but you have to learn first.
The success at the African Cup of Nations 2000 and 2002, like, you beat 2 really strong teams on penalties in both finals, like that Nigeria team of JJ Okocha and Taribo West, and then a couple of years later in 2002 a Senegal team who were just emerging and go on and stun the world at the World Cup that summer. What did it mean to you, and what did it mean to your family and friends to go and be a part of a Cameroon team that won an African Cup of Nations?
I think for my family, my friends, they felt so good about it, so happy, because of course now they can brag about it. You know what? Our boy is in the national team. You know, so. Is a proud moment. But to be fair, for me, it wasn't that way, because, like I say, the event never really took over my enthusiasm for football. And for me, it was just another tournament, and another tournament to win, because every African Cup, we never went in 2000 or in 2002 and start planning that, okay, if you get out of this. No, because even our bonuses was based on winning. Because we couldn't see ourselves not winning that African Cup. It wasn't like we never even thought of it. So when we structured the bonus, it was based on, after the final, when we're going to win the final, that's what we want. And just to tell you, it's not just the confidence, because the best team does not win the African Cup. I would say the best player does not win the African Cup. It's the best team. And I think as a team, we love to be around each other. We didn't feel any pressure. None. No pressure. The things were going around outside our bubble, but we never feel any pressure. Like, I would say, between the games, you couldn't even imagine that we were in a competition like African Cup, because it was very relaxed. You know, we have singers coming sometime after dinner for a concert. We have dancers coming after dinner, and during the training session, we have dancers coming. Ourselves, we were dancing during this. Listen, why? Because we knew how good we are, and we knew that something less than winning is a failure. So we didn't need anyone to tell us that we need to. And I think maybe that's a little bit the difference of this generation now, because I think when they play like they feel the pressure, but we never felt the pressure, because we wanted that pressure. We knew what we are capable of, and the player we have, we couldn't accept anything else than winning.
You were also helped in 2002 in particular by the fact that you had the coolest jersey in the history of international football. Like,
Amen.
when no sleeves, I'm thinking Samuel Eto'o, the muscles out. Like, you must have pulled on that jersey and thought, God damn it, we are good.
Oh yeah. To be fair, the jersey were not designed by Puma. It's Puma who came to the players, some of the players in the national team, and say, listen, what do you think about? We want to do something special for the African Cup. What do you think? So the players start to give ideas, and they felt, you know what? We're gonna that's the jersey we want. So Puma done it, but what Puma done also that it was, I think, they were very clever because on that time they also have Serena Williams, and for our first game, I think Serena Williams was due to play a tournament, and she wore that, you know. So, and everyone said, "What is that?" So when we were in the first game. Maybe that's what we want, because everyone was saying, what is that? So our opponent didn't understand, because some of our opponents were also sponsored by Puma. So, and when you have the same sponsor, most of the time, you almost have the same jersey. The design the same. Maybe now the color are different. But we were the only team in Puma catalog who were completely different.
Right. And it was quite an intimidating jersey as well on the right player, because, you know, it was tight fitting. There was a lot of strong men in that team that if you're walking onto a pitch and the muscles are out, that the opposition are looking at you and thinking, we know we're in for a game here.
No, but every player on that level is very strong. just to tell you, so there is nothing.
They're not as intimidated as I would have been. Do you still have the jersey?
No.
Oh.
Sorry for that.
What a shame. And then, of course, you go to the World Cup and FIFA wouldn't allow Cameroon wear the sleeveless jersey, so you have to attach sleeves. And obviously Cameroon play the Republic of Ireland in the first match. That match, you're on the bench for Cameroon that day. I'm wondering, as I'm sure you're aware from all your time in Ireland, how obsessed we are with Saipan and Roy Keane and Mick McCarthy. And the first match after Roy Keane leaves the Republic of Ireland squad is that game against Cameroon. Was that something that was discussed in the Cameroon camp? What was the feeling around playing an Ireland team without Roy Keane and a team, I guess, from the outside that looked like it was in sort of disarray?
No, but to be fair, us, we never talk about it. Never. We never even mention it, because we felt that, listen, we need to win this game. Their issue is not our business, because we have our own issue too. So we couldn't have time to deal with other teams' issue. And that was our only focus. I can tell you that I heard about it after the World Cup, because to be fair, we were in some kind of bubble that the info were very few. It's only what they want you to know. And also, during that time, I think most of the players, I think that's the decision we took sometime, is that everything is off, the phone is off. You can only use your phone to call the family, that's it. After that, off, you know, just to keep your mind into it.
Yeah, so they weren't spending their time telling you all about Roy Keane and Saipan and going through all the details around that. To look ahead to this year's tournament, Joey, I'm interested in you mentioned there that it's the strongest team, not the strongest players, because I'm doing the introduction and I'm talking about teams. I'm basing it around the players. So when we talk about Egypt, it's around Mo Salah and what he can do for Egypt. Or we're talking about Riyad Mahrez and Algeria and Sadio Mane and Senegal. Which team has the strongest squad? Which team has the strongest starting 11 away from the superstars that are going to be there?
It's very difficult to know, to be fair, because the African Cup of Nations is completely different tournament. That's why I say it's not based on players. That's the first thing. And secondly, there's one thing you have to understand is that the way those guys are playing here in Europe is completely different when we go in Africa.
In what way?
You understand? That's completely different because in Europe you have another style of football. You have another style where is based as usual. It's more tactic. And in Africa, most of the time you have the tactic, you have the physique, but also you have the improvisation. And that's what I say about the team. Why? Because sometimes you have to adapt on some situation without even the manager telling you. And in Cameroon, in that time, in 2000 and 2002, we have such strong character that the manager didn't have to tell us how we're going to handle this guy or this guy. Because soon on the pitch that the plan didn't go our way, you have one of the leaders who say, hey, no, it's time to change. We go there. So that's what I'm saying. It's completely different the way you play in African Cup and then you play in Europe. In African Cup first, it's more physical. I think even in English, physical as in African Cup. That's the reality. And then that's what I'm saying, that improvisation, how fast can you adapt to your opponent? In Europe, you have time to study your opponent. You know exactly who you're going to play against. In African Cup, you don't know who you're going to play against. So you can know the player because he plays in one of the big leagues in Europe, but it will not be the same player when you watch him. Why? For one reason, because the teammate he has in the club are completely different than the teammate he has in national team. And the prime example is, I don't know if you know him, George Weah.
Yeah.
George Weah in the club, he won the Ballon d'Or or something like that. But when he was going in Liberia, he couldn't play the same way.
Didn't have the same quality players
because
around
he didn't have the same teammate. And I think that's the same quality player. That's why I say they play completely different. When you play, if you go in African Cup and you think, oh, I'm going to play like in my club, no. Because sometimes in African Cup, you have to do even more than you do in your club. And one of the players, I remember I don't remember the year with Ghana. You have Abedi Pele. And I saw he was one of the most technical players I saw. And when he was going African Cup, he uses his technique, but he was so aggressive, something he never done in Europe. So he completely changed. He has his technique, but he understood that I don't have the same teammate. I have to do a little bit more than I used to if I want to win it.
So who do you think is going to win?
I think it's very difficult at the moment because I think Nigeria, if they don't win now, it's going to be very difficult for them to win again. I think also Ivory Coast, if they don't win now, it's going to be very difficult to win again. I think those two teams, for their dynasty, they need to win that African Cup. You have Senegal who has a lot of superstars. You have Ivory Coast who have a lot of superstars. Then you have Ghana Ghana is very difficult to play in African Cup. They are very difficult to play. But I do think it's going to be a surprise. You may see a surprise there because I think a lot of clubs believe they can do something. They really do. They really believe they can do something. And it's so difficult to call on that one. So difficult because even Cameroon, I think Cameroon knows how to win. They knows how to win. Even they don't play well, they knows how to win. Is it going to be easy at home? I don't know, because there is a lot of pressure. And if they are able to deal with the pressure, then there's a chance for Cameroon to win. There's a chance. But I will say it's very difficult. It's one of the toughest African nation I see here. Based also on how many good players now each team has. Because before you have some team who didn't, but most of the team, they have professional players. So they have that experience of higher competition. Before, you didn't have so many teams with professional players. You didn't. But now almost every team has someone who is able to tell others how to handle the pressure.
Joey, it's been great to talk to you. Thanks a lot for taking the call. We'd love to get you on again and talk about the Irish years and all the incredible success you had in the League of Ireland, because I think you're one of those figures that whenever your name is mentioned, any League of Ireland fan, it automatically puts a smile on their face. So we'd love to chat to you again over the next little while and go through your time in the League of Ireland. But it's been brilliant to talk to you, and enjoy the next few weeks.
Thank you, you too.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky, proud partner and supporter of the Republic of Ireland women's national football team.
This is News Talk.